is so exciting to be back here in Bend and amongst this community and to see all of the innovation happening in our region. And today, we're going to see 5 incredible companies that are all competing for the coveted title of Best Early Stage Company. And it's nerve-wracking when you're first pitching and in your early stage. So we need to have lots of energy for them today. We're also going to need lots of audience participation. So we have Menti, which is going to help capture Q&A for after they pitch for their 3 minutes. And then, most importantly, we're going to have you vote at the very end for your audience participation winner. So really excited to kick off this competition. Our first company that I'd like to welcome to the stage is Fordje. Fordje is an AI software platform clarifying city codes so that construction developers and cities can help build faster. Please help me welcome to the stage, Gillian, Wildfire.
Hello, everybody. I am Gillian Wildfire, CEO of Fordje, where we are clarifying city codes so you can build housing and residential and electrification faster. Show of hands, who here has had to deal with city codes before? Okay, so you all understand my pain. I had to do some structural work on my house, so I did a bunch of research. I submitted my structural permit. It got accepted, great. And then I submitted my fire permit, and they rejected it. When I asked why, they said, oh, well, your structural information's incorrect. And I said, no, I got that approved already. And they said, oh, well, we don't agree with their interpretation of the codes. And I said, cool, what do I do now? And they said, I don't know. And so I'd spend 9 months making those 2 departments talk to each other and agree on their own codes. And if you're in construction development, trying to work across 28,000 different municipalities in the United States, it's impossible. It's too complicated. There's no way to scale. And research shows that over 11% of all US construction spend goes toward this problem alone. That means people are spending time on researching. That means they're submitting permits and getting them rejected. They're getting their inspections rejected, having to redo stuff after those inspections have been rejected. And that's $238 billion in waste every single year. And that means if you're getting those rejections, you're having delays to your project, which means you can get your funding pulled. Maybe your project then gets canceled. And then if you're smaller, you could have your entire company go under. And when we talk to a couple dozen different cities, they have similar problems. They are trying to handhold different people through this issue, so developers, citizens, through these problems for hundreds of hours every single year. That means that they, like I talked about at the beginning, are accidentally introducing conflicts in their codes without realizing it. And they, like developers, would love a national repository of codes so they can quickly understand what other people are doing with things that are new, like ADUs or electrification, and apply those to their own city needs really quickly. So, enter Fordje. We are like the Plaid of city codes, where one person is providing information so that 2 people can really benefit. It's really simple. Cities upload their codes. Our AI transforms thousands of pages of codes from international, state level, city level, and then both on building and zoning codes into a queryable interface where you can quickly summarize and understand exactly what you need to move forward in seconds. And because this benefits cities, because they can get this onus off of their own problem set, they're incentivized to keep their codes up to date. And then developers know that their information is up to date and they can quickly run forward and expand their footprint with confidence. Our team has worked together for 3 years on this problem at a different company before, and we are working in residential, commercial, and clean tech in B2B and B2G, and we have a $16.7 billion TAM based on our pricing. Our customers are very excited for our product. We just launched last week our public product, very excited, and we are raising $550,000 that we can complete our product by the end of next year. And we are also looking for strategic partnerships with people in both government and in construction. Thank you so much.
Thank you for kicking things off, Gillian. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll remind the audience that we have an opportunity now to ask questions. So we've got our Menti code here. But to kick it off, so Gillian, right now you're focusing on a very niche market, but where do you see the potential for your product to be able to expand? Like what other industries, or how would you see that in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned, residential, commercial, and clean tech are pretty large, but this can really apply to anybody who builds anything and needs to deal with their city codes. And so we can go into a lot of different verticals in that area, as well as get deeper with them, allowing people to get us more into their project management tools in both the B2G and the B2B sector.
That's great. And what about, can you tell us a little bit about your pricing model? How do you anticipate going to market and pricing this product?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a SaaS model for both of those systems, and we have it tiered, and it's based on usage amounts for either your smaller developers, medium-sized developers, or if you're national and looking to go across the entire way, then we have pricing for that as well. And both myself and Richie, one of my co-founders, have purchased one of our competitors before at around 200 grand a year, and their data was about 20% inaccurate, so we know we can do even better than that.
And tell us a little bit about your models. Are you using an existing LLM? Are you training your own model?
Yep. So we are using the Chat GPT for a mini model, and we're continuing to always look for new and better things while we are getting this up and running. We just really went all full time in June, and then we are seeing what is the best out there and applying to that, and then we will start training our own model soon.
Great. And tell us a little bit about the competitive landscape. How do you look at your competitors, and what's your
Yeah.
unique competitive advantage?
For sure. So we have a few different competitors. One, like I mentioned, is CoreLogic. We spent at a national level about 200 grand of them every year. We still had about a 20% permit rejection rate, along with many other things. That is extremely painful, like I talked about before. If you're getting permit rejections, you can have canceled projects, and that can really tank you. In fact, we had around a 30 to 40% rejection rate in new areas, so we had to quickly unexpand. So we can do better on that for sure. And then our other big competitor is Upcodes. They are similarly trying to give people research tools to understand their codes, but they're really at the state level and they're not really diving into the city level. And because we're working with cities to have this information up to date, people know that the information they're getting is fresh. If you're out there trying to just do a quick Google search or use something like ChatGPT, that information is not fresh, which is part of the problem with CoreLogic, is they're refreshing every 6 to 12 months maybe. And cities are changing their codes all of the time, trying to keep up to date with what their city needs are.
All right. And how do you handle the situation when your interpretation of a law is materially different from the cities? It sounds like someone in the audience may have had a nightmare situation before.
Yeah, okay. So one of the nice things about working with cities is that we believe we can work with them to train these models and have that interpretation brought in. Oftentimes there's things like, hey, I had a word that was slightly different, but it can mean, like I talked about, hey, the fire team has a different interpretation of the same code than the structural team who owns that code. How do you deal with that? So we believe we can work with the cities to help train our model to understand what the interpretation was, what the intention behind the law was, versus what is actually put into the words. An example I can talk about is I was talking to somebody at Independence, Oregon, and they were like, we want a lot of natural light in our spaces, so any new commercial building has to have 60% of exterior walls on the first floor be windows. They had somebody come in, put in a beautiful building, tons of windows, not even close to 60%. And so they had to then work to say, hey, what we really meant was we want a lot of natural light. So we can help bring those developers together closer to the cities so they can understand what their needs are. And cities are looking for that kind of feedback so they can give developers an easier path forward.
Okay. And last question. Is your major hurdle government agency adoption or the technology of the disparate systems?
Yeah, I think our major hurdle is really kind of what you're hitting on here, is that these are fragmented markets. There's a lot of people out there who want this, and from a government perspective, it is, I don't even know this is possible. They've been dealing with this entrenched problem for so long. In fact, 70% of cities' codes in the United States are just in a PDF that is on their website, and they don't even know there's a better option out there. So that's our biggest hurdle for adoption. But because of that, we are part of a civic government accelerator, and their job is to get us in front of different governments. They're working with us to understand how procurement processes work so that we can go out there and have like really great, confident conversations with these cities who are looking for solutions to these problems. And in fact, we just were asked this week to, in a couple weeks, pitch to New York City's Department of Buildings for this problem because they found out about what we're doing.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, let's give it up for Gillian, our first presenter.
Thanks so much.
Right, and next to present is Melanie Jenkinson with Howl at the Spoon from Beaverton. Howl at the Spoon is revolutionizing the sauce aisle with portable, flavor-packed, single-serve artisan sauces for every meal. Welcome, Melanie.
In the next 3 minutes, over 1.5 million single-serve snacks will be consumed in the United States, proving convenience is queen. But where's the convenient solution when it comes to adding vibrant flavor to healthy meals? Until now, we've had two options: perform a high-stress culinary feat, or add another bulky bottle filled with mystery ingredients to your sauce graveyard. That's where Howl at the Spoon comes in. We're revolutionizing a stale category. Think condiment pack, but for foodies. Now you can simply rip, tip, drip your way to incredible flavor in an instant. We're making restaurant quality flavor that's both affordable and accessible. Our chef-crafted blends are made in small batches using only all-natural, plant-based ingredients. We're saying no to the ingredients that are plaguing our food system today: refined sugar, high sodium, junk oils, and preservatives. I've been building brands and high-performing teams for 15 years as a creative director. And as a cookbook author and backpacker, I saw a gap in the market for healthy, portable flavor, so I filled it, combining my passions for both brand and food. We're sitting at the intersection of three major trends: wellness food, expected to double by 2030 to $232 billion, plant-based, expected to triple to $39 billion, and convenience, with 48% of consumers seeking convenient solutions. I've sold 80,000 units. I've acquired 15,000 customers. I've landed on 40 grocery shelves, including Market of Choice, where we're doubling our restocking order 200% year over year. I'm aiming for a 60% margin at scale, and my grassroots efforts have garnered us national media attention, along with a growing list of awards. Over the next 18 months, I'll laser focus in three areas: retail, targeting co-op, natural, independence; B2B, where I'll build on my existing relationships with major airlines, military, and campuses; and e-commerce, well, I'll scale our efforts using targeted digital campaigns to raise awareness. We'll also add a subscription-based model. This will head towards the 156 million US consumers craving convenience. Also, to deepen our consumer base, I'll bridge into the breakfast aisle with a fruit-based option for your yogurt and oatmeal. So as I'm heading towards $200,000 in revenue on a $3 sauce, I know that this could be huge. This is huge. And if timing is everything, now is our time to scale, disrupt, and own the future of flavor. Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. And your sauces are so incredibly delicious. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to try the breakfast ones. All right, so we've got our mentee up here. Let's get some questions in for Melanie. But to start off, Melanie, tell us a little bit about your competitive advantage. Like, how do you think about who your main competitors are in the shelf?
So our competitive landscape is the global flavor landscape. We have what I consider to be 4 competitors on shelf. So I'll tell you who they are and why we consider ourselves different. I believe Kevin Natural, Botchins, A Dozen Cousins, and Omsum are our direct competitors on the space. We're different because we have lower sodium. We're equal as the lowest with A Dozen Cousins with no sugar added. And we are an instant flavor. So instead of a complicated simmer, marinade, or starter sauce, rip the packet open, put it on your bowls, put it on your salads, put it on your protein, ready to go.
Great. So tell us, you talked a lot about being sustainable and really caring about the environment
Sure.
as a part of your product. So tell us a little bit about the environmental impact of the packaging that you're using.
Sure. So packaging is a systemic issue. We have talked to a manufacturer that has a recyclable option that is at 150,000 MOQ. Just to put it in perspective, my MOQ right now is 20,000. So we're heading towards that. It will be at scale. I do have TerraCycle as a recycling program. We pay for recycling right now with our consumers, but we do acknowledge that that is a systemic issue.
And what does scaling look like for you? I mean, congratulations on hitting the amount of units that you have now. What does the next phase of that look like?
So the next phase is, as we are getting these requests for purchase orders for $25,000 for airlines, We're going to be jumping from commercial kitchen, where I'm hand making these, into our own manufacturing facility that we'll be building up in Oregon. Not interested in co-packers. I want to, create jobs in Oregon. So there are machines instead of doing this by hand. So if I'm making 25,000 runs as opposed to the 1,000 runs I'm doing now, there are machines that can do that.
Great. And how does your pricing compare to competitors? When I'm looking at sauces on the shelf, tell us a little bit about the pricing.
Sure. So our competitor, as I said, one is Omsum. We are the exact pricing to them right now. I have handed out 100,000 samples, 150,000 samples in the last 2 years. I've talked with our consumers. In Seattle, they're saying we're cheap for what we are. We're using organics, fair trade, and high quality olive oil. So they are saying, we would pay a little more, but mostly I feel like it's an affordable price point on the shelf.
And since we are in Bend, tell us about, are you targeting outdoor enthusiasts, backpackers? Yes. Tell us about your target market.
Yes. So I actually launched for camping and backpacking, and I had all my branding geared towards it. It is an incredible market base for us, but I was immediately blown away by the consumer response for a much larger demographic. Meal planning, meal prep became the bigger demographic. We are in some outdoor shops. We're doing great there, and I'd love to get into the REIs of the world, and it is our base, but we just found a much larger demographic.
And then tell us where we can find you in the store if we want to go try it ourselves. Where can we find it?
One of our best stores is Market of Choice in Bend. There's also a lovely camp shop called Pacaya in Bend, so you can get it there as well. They do really great meal kits for people that are going camping, so props to them. And Market of Choice is brilliant as well. They're so supportive.
Great. And you're raising, or are you currently raising? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about the use of funds for that fundraise?
Yes, so this fundraising will go towards those digital awareness campaigns. So this has been grassroots so far. So I will be using that for our Amazon store, for our social channels, and our Shopify to raise ranks on Google. If we are having these big POs come in, it's going to be funding inventory to get that out. Right now, I'm just putting everything I get back into the company. So it would be nice to have a little bit of working capital so I can get taken a little bit more seriously when I am getting these POs. Also, we need supported distribution in the Pacific Northwest. I've done all of this. These 80,000 units have been sold without distribution, which is wild. So if I can get distribution in place, sky's the limit.
That's incredible. Well, let's give Melanie a big round of applause. Make sure to go pick up one of her sauces. Yeah, thank you, Melanie. Let's welcome Eugene-based startup, the Offer House, a real estate platform that's disrupting the way that people buy and sell property. With the Offer House, buyers can place and negotiate offers in real time, all without needing a realtor. Please join me in welcoming Lanbin to the stage.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lanbin. I am the CEO of co-founder of the Offer House. Offer House is an online real estate platform for home buyers to DIY your own purchase. No buyers, realtors needed, no commissions to pay out. I am the top 1 realtor in my company. You don't need me anymore. Do you know real estate is one of the only things you cannot easily buy on your own? Oh, sorry. All because it is set up as realtor-to-realtor business for just now. Many national lawsuits are forcing changes. The most important change is that home sellers are no longer obligated to pay buyers' realtors' commissions. Now buyers have to. The average buyer's realtor commission is about $13,000. Can you save $13,000 and still buy that house? Yes, you can. Offer House is designed to have buyers in full control. It meets all business standards and only $99 a month for unlimited access. Here is how Offer House works. After you identify a property, whether it's your neighbor's house or you found it on Zillow, do not click that Make an Offer button on Zillow because it will only put you on the list for random realtors to call you. Instead, go to Offer House. The platform will ask you simple questions. Your offer will be generated according to your own answers. You can continue the negotiation, track timelines, and write all documents until closing. It is that easy. The opportunity is huge. There are about 4.3 million transactions in 2023. We only need 5% of that number, which is about 200,000 sales to reach 100 million in revenue. To do so, we target on real estate investors, buyers who are experienced, and those buyers who are the off realtors anyways. We launched about 2 weeks ago. We already see customer activities. We have been reached by the real estate news sites and podcasts wanted to bring us to their audience. Our 2025 goal is 2,000 sales, 1 million in revenue. About our co-founders, I came from China 20 years ago and received my PhD from UVO. I am a realtor, developer, and a real estate investor myself. My co-founder, John Penniman, is from tech. He primarily worked with the real estate investor through his own property management company. The real estate industry hasn't been disrupted for so many years. The new government regulations are in and the changes are here. We are the first one to market to bring home buyers an easy DIY solution. Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, audience, you know what to do by now. So go ahead and go up to Menti and submit a few questions. But to kick it off, tell us how this actually works in the real world. So how do people get into the house? There's a lot of checklist items when you're buying a home. So can you give us some real world scenarios?
Yes. When you wanted to see a house, you see a sign in front of the house. You call that number. You say, hey, can I get in the house to see it? A good realtor like me will open the door for you. It's a top secret. They normally don't want to do it. But you're gonna make them do it. That's the listing agent job, to let anyone in that door to see the property. So that's how it gets started. Once you identify the property, do your homework, check everything. Even you have a realtor, you are willing to pay $13,000, you're the buyer still responsible for everything that you're getting into. So why not save that $13,000, make a phone call to get in, then go to Offer House to write your own offers?
Seems pretty simple. All right. Well, what incentives do you offer to real estate sellers now that they don't pay realtors?
Yes. Our goal is to buyers in situation and the sellers say, hey, that is easy for Offer House and get an offer from you. No buyer's agent, and seller can send a respondent to buyer to our website. Yeah, so our goal is to connect them all together. Again, you don't need me. If I'm good, you only need Offer House.
Can you tell us a little bit about insurance risks? Are there any significant insurance risks for your company as you think about the types of business that you're conducting?
Are you talking about insurance for the website or insurance for the home buyers?
Well, I'm not sure because it's a question from Menti, but let's go with however you'd like to answer the question.
There's two perspectives of insurance. First, we're going to insure us do right actions. We are not representing anyone. We are the service to put your answers in an attorney-approved contract and send it out. The other one is about home insurance. Our ultimate goal is to become the website for buyers to go. You can find your lending options, you can find your insurance options, you can find inspector options. So that's the goal we're heading to.
And tell us a little bit about your competitive moat. How do you think about avoiding becoming a commodity concept?
We are the first one to get into market to bring the DIY solution to buyers. Other big companies like Zillow, Redfin, they are all agent-centered. They want my portion of my commission. That's how they make profit. The other way is you can download the form from the zip form only if you know what you're doing. We bring the convenience together. No realtor, you can do something else. And I can do this because as a buyer, ultimately I'm responsible for what I'm doing and put that all through this website to make it easy.
So I remember the last home that I bought, I submitted an offer within an hour and there was already 10 offers on the
Mhm.
table. So in your case, what do you do if there's multiple offers?
That's the part offer house really shine. When you have multiple offers laying in front of seller, speaking of 9 of 10 are represented by a realtor, the buyer's agent say, hey, I want 2 or 3% of your proceeds from the seller to pay me. Again, that's about 13,000 less that seller can get. You come in with offer house offer, say, I don't need any money from you. I have offer house. So you as seller can save that 13,000. Which offer gonna stand up? Yours. Yep.
Okay, and I think we have time for one last question. So, can you tell
Please.
us about what key areas you're going to focus on for fundraising to reach the first $1 million in revenue?
Yes. We are focusing on branding and marketing right now. We have a good service. We need to let people what we do and help buyers to build their confidence. I can do this on my own. So that's the part we focus on raising fund to help us to bring the words out.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next we have another really interesting company coming to us from Portland. So, we're going to welcome to the stage Oliver Alexander, the founder of Prophetic. Prophetic's SaaS platform is revolutionizing the real estate industry by finding and analyzing development opportunities in seconds, not hours. Welcome, Oliver.
I'm Oliver, the founder and CEO of Prophetic. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and while I was building new clinics across Oregon for my healthcare company, I ran into a problem. It is really hard to assess land for real estate development potential. I figured I didn't have the right tools, so I talked to brokers and developers, but to my surprise, there's no efficient way to do this work right now. That's because every single city and county has their own complex 500+ page zoning manual that dictates what you can build, where you can build it, how tall you can go, and more. On the West Coast alone, there are 990 municipalities, each with their own zoning rules. But once you get that, you've got to understand the market trends, what your competition is up to, and your site-specific constraints. It takes a seasoned pro 1 to 3 hours to assess a parcel for development viability. And this work never ends because most real estate developments are built on land that's purchased off-market. So the more land you analyze, the more opportunities you find. You know what tools are being used for this work right now? Whether you're a local developer or the nation's largest home builder worth $61 billion, you are using clunky county websites, Google Earth Desktop, and Excel. If you want to analyze more land for development, you have to add expensive capacity to your team. The inefficiency of this process is a big reason why we have a housing supply shortage in Bend and the US as a whole. I can't stand inefficiency, so I built Prophetic. Prophetic is software that finds and analyzes development opportunities in seconds, not hours. We're a daily use SaaS platform that becomes our customers' CRM for development, since we let them move 40 times faster than their old ways. For the first time, every single city and county's zoning map is integrated in one place alongside property data, our proprietary site AI tech, an acquisition pipeline, and much more. We launched on the West Coast 3 months ago. Our users have already analyzed over 8,000 parcels for development. We priced the system at $20,000 to $120,000 per region per year, and we only do annual contracts. In the 3 months since we went live, we've signed 101,000 in ARR. We'll be at 636,000 by the end of the year based on our current pipeline. And I'll leave you with one last stat. Of the 106 business days that our first enterprise client has had access to the system, they've logged in and used it 94 days. Prophetic solves a vastly complex, business-critical problem that lets builders, brokers, and developers find opportunities, get units built, and solve the housing shortage. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver. Really impressive what you've been able to accomplish.
Thanks, Allie.
So, again, reminder, we've got some questions up here if you want to submit the questions for Oliver. But we'll start by I remember the rush of getting my first contract signed, and it feels really good. But you've got a really big pipeline to close and only a few months to close it to get to almost $1 million in sales. So, can you tell us a little bit about what gives you more confidence about being able to close that by the end of the year?
Absolutely. Uh, the sales cycle is faster than we expected. The users are using it almost 3 times as much as we expected. And some of those data points that point to these facts are one enterprise client we're about to sign in a couple weeks. That's a $93,000 deal. That client I met in San Francisco. 2 weeks later, he left and joined a different firm. On his second day, he emailed me and said, hey, can I get a login for Prophetic? I want to show these guys. The next day, I onboarded 5 of his teammates. They've used it literally every day since then. Then, for the last year, I've been cultivating a relationship with the nation's largest home builder, that same $61 billion company, and walked them through the vision to beta to the sales discussion where we're at now. And on this very Monday, I sat in a room with 5 of their land acquisition folks, 2 of their executives for an hour. And a few things happened during that meeting that I've never happened in my sales career. One of their teammates came and shook my hand and told me congratulations. Never had a prospect do that. Second, the VP said, we'll take it for Oregon. We need to go get approval to get Washington looped in as well. We're going to road trip to Kirkland. Never had a road trip offered. And third, he followed me to the stairwell and asked if he could invest. So those indicators are immensely strong. And while this is just their regional division, the market is way bigger than we initially expected because we're not selling into one firm. We're selling into each of their divisions, and each of those divisions is a $50,000 to $150,000 license. That company has 8 divisions across the West Coast alone.
It's incredible. I don't think in my career that I've ever had someone say congratulations either. So that's pretty great. Okay, so tell us a little bit about all the data. How do you keep it current? Tell us a little bit about the infrastructure.
Most of our data we license from national data warehouses. Some of them are using AI to go and scrape that data themselves, and then we purchase it from them. Then, of course, we use our own LLMs to go and augment that data and get the last 30% or so of value out. So things like the minimum lot size, your floor area ratio, max building height, impervious coverage percent, we're able to go and extract those from the zoning manuals ourselves and really customize what we're showing our users based on what they're building. So a subdivision builder's view in the platform can look different from someone who's doing industrial or mixed use.
So talk about your pricing model just a little bit. So you mentioned $50,000 to $150,000 swing for ARR per division. Can you clarify that and tell us a little bit more about how that varies and how you think about pricing?
Yeah, so initially we expected to price the system per user, but what we found after beta testing was it kind of just goes virally in their organization. Like it starts with 1 or 2 land acquisition people, then their boss needs a login to watch what they're doing, then their sales team needs a login to look at some market data, then their finance wants to see the pipeline so they can see what money is about to need to be spent. So we said, let's not put a barrier in the way of letting more people use it and making it more sticky. Let's instead charge per region because that's indicative of the scale of the developer. Local developers, brokers, that type of thing, they'll tend to pay $750 to $1,500 per county per month. The large developers, we just go bulk and say, look, we're not going to charge you $400,000 for Oregon. We're going to do a bulk pricing and work out a deal for the entire state at that point.
Incredible. Okay, and I think we have time for one more question, or maybe 2, depending on how fast you talk. So tell us a little bit about competitive advantage. Why do you think that your solution is unique?
The Prophetic platform, there's really no question of if it's valuable. It's objectively valuable. When we go and talk to these folks that are in our sales funnel, generally their first response is, there's no way, you can't do that. Everyone has their own zoning info. Then they see it and they just don't stop using it. So, I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
It's okay, I did too. We'll move on to the next one. You have time to answer it. Okay, so as you think about building your company, tell us about your big picture vision and your exit strategy.
Sure, that one I can do. Exit strategy, so it's friends and family funded, plus I funded it myself to get to where we're at this point. My co-founders and I up here in the balcony, who are absolute rock stars, the best engineering team and sales team in the country, bar none. We are working for free, AKA equity at this point. We haven't done a big round. the velocity at which we're signing customers and the payment terms, like our initial offer to the customer says you're paying this much and it's due on signing, and we wait to see what they say, has cash flowed our business pretty well right out of the gate. But I think we'll realistically need to do a round probably in Q1 or Q2 so we can go national, and then we're going to sell to CoStar, B of A, CBRE, one of the majors.
Awesome. Well, best of luck, Oliver. Thank you for your presentation today. All right. And we have our last early stage finalist who's coming up next. Portland-based Rose City Robotics is tackling a critical challenge with their autonomous robotic disassembly technology designed to enable second life applications and maximize safety, value extraction, and critical metals recovery at scale. So welcome to the stage, Duncan Miller.
Hi, I'm Duncan Miller. I'm a software engineer, and I have 20 years of experience as a founder with multiple exits. We started Rose City Robotics to solve the EV battery recycling problem with AI robotics. So imagine for a moment you're an engineer at a recycling plant in charge of disassembling EV batteries by hand. You stand in front of a 1,000-pound battery pack, suited up in personal protective equipment. Your partner stands by, holding a utility lineman's hook to pull you off the battery if you start to be electrocuted to death. Now, as you start to cut into the battery, you're aware that packed inside are hundreds of cells, which, if punctured, will result in an explosive, toxic fire. We spoke to one of these engineers. His name is Colin Pelletier, and he said that even though he's done it hundreds of times, each time he takes an angle grinder to an EV battery, he wonders if this time will be the time that something goes wrong. So why on earth are we making people take these risks? Well, these batteries are loaded with valuable metals in short supply and deemed critical to our national security. Manual disassembly recovers the most value. The alternative is to use expensive equipment to either burn or shred the batteries whole, resulting in higher throughput, but lower recovered value. At Rose City Robotics, we have developed RoZerobot, a robotic battery disassembly system, which initially is remotely operated, keeping workers safe while increasing productivity and maximizing value extraction. And this smart system learns with AI, gathering knowledge to enhance its capabilities and evolving to become autonomous over time. That means we can remove the human from the loop, and RoZerobot becomes Rosie the robot. This is Rosie, performing a task autonomously in our lab. We pitched this technology to some of the biggest EV battery recyclers in the US, and they confirmed that our tech would be the best way to maximize value extraction at scale. Our proprietary hardware and software would provide these companies with a competitive advantage in a market that McKinsey forecasts will grow to $12 billion in revenue in the next 5 years. That's 2 million tons of EV batteries per year and growing exponentially. Our team is made up of experts in machine learning, computer vision, robotics, and batteries, and we have not found a competitor that's using our approach. We should not be putting people's lives at risk doing this work. People like Colin Pelletier. At Rose City Robotics, we can shape the future of our energy independence. And this is just the first of many industries where our technology can be applied. Thank you.
Great job, Duncan. And
Thank
first, before we go any further, I'm hoping you guys can give a really loud round of applause to Duncan because he won the audience favorite at the Central Oregon Pub Talk last month. So let's give him a round of applause for winning People's Choice. All right. While we have questions coming up, Duncan, can you tell us, you hinted at the very end about potentially this being able to be used in different industries and different processes. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah, so we're a robotics integrator, and so we've had a lot of experience in the traditional automation field. And contrary to what you might think, the automation field is actually very antiquated. So basically, in order to program a robot, a individual programmer needs to program each routine into the robot. And so what we believe is that we need to shift the paradigm from an idea of programming robots to a paradigm of training robots. And so our technology, our software, allows a human to train the robot in real time. So first for gathering knowledge for the robot to be trained on, but then our integrations and our interfaces allow the human through VR and AR to receive a forecast from the robot of what it's about to do and correct the robot or teach the robot in real time so that the robot then learns and can do that task on its own autonomously. And so that, we're very much attacking the EV battery recycling market. So that's where our hardware is going to be focused. But our software can be licensed and can be applied to any problem where a human currently needs to do a task and it can't be automated.
That's incredible. So tell us a little bit about unit economics. Can you tell us what the cost per unit is now and what the projected cost is going to be in the future?
Yeah, so initially we're going to be building custom hardware for the EV battery recyclers. And so our system is going to cost about $1 million for about 5,000 tons of capacity. And we spoke to Service Solutions, who is an EV battery recycler. They currently have about 10,000 tons of capacity, and they're growing to 100,000 tons in the next 5 years. That's 10x. And so they would like to stay with a disassembly process, but what they told us is the only way that they have to scale right now is doing a full pack shredding system. But they're able to recover the value from a disassembly process, even though they have to pay 2 expert technicians for 1 hour to 3 hours to disassemble one of these, compared to 10 seconds for a shredding machine. But they're able to recover that value and that cost. So it's worth it to them to do the disassembly. The problem is that it doesn't scale. So we're able to still deliver that value to them, but allow them to scale.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your go-to-market? Are you focusing just in North America? How do you think about international markets? And if you do decide to go international, how long do you think that will take to scale for export?
Yeah, I think a lot of the EV market right now is in China, and China just switched in the last few months from being more than 50% of their new auto sales being EVs. So the US has about 25%, the other 25% is in Europe. And so there are 5 large EV battery recyclers in the US, and so those would be our initial go-to-market targets. We also would be marketing to vehicle OEMs. We've spoken to a number of them, and they are disassembling their battery packs right now that they've received back from their dealer network and refurbishing those for future use. And so those are potential customers as well. But then, yes, eventually we will scale beyond and go to Europe. The other go-to-market aspect is that we want to have this be a distributed system eventually, so that it is like a shipping container size system that can be located at like the 8,200 scrap yards located throughout the United States to do disassembly there, so that they're not shipping about 50% of the weight of these batteries as non-valuable materials. So they're not shipping those batteries around. They're considered hazardous waste. It's very difficult to ship them. And so if we could extend that customer to the scrapyards, that would be ideal.
Well, thank you, Duncan. I think that's all the time we have for Q&A, but appreciate your presentation today.
Thank you.